WWE Bad Blood has officially ended, man, and what a pay-per-view as was. They have absolutely delivered on this pay-per-view, man. We're going to get into every single thing on the match. I am still in complete shock of everything happened from the Drew McIntyre match, from the Bayley and Nia match, from the main event of Cody Rhodes, Roman, and the Blood. Everything on this match was really, really good, man. I can't wait. Well, I'm gonna just go ahead and jump straight into it because I'm already wasting too much time. We start off with the Hell in a Cell match between Drew McIntyre versus CM Punk. A lot of people thought it should have been a main event, could have made an argument, but knowing what ended up happening at the main event, we know why. But this match was an absolute banger, man. I have little to no complaints about this match, man. Early on in the match, we had Drew McIntyre tossing CM Punk into the Hell in a Cell cage, making him instantly bleed. And later on in the match, soon after, CM Punk ends up grabbing a toolbox that was underneath the ring, ends up hitting Drew McIntyre on his head, which made him bleed a lot of blood, which they delivered. Because that's one thing I was wondering: are they going to deliver on the amount of blood they was going to both shed? Now, all of it wasn't real blood, of course. Some of it was fake, but blood is blood at the end of the day. I'm not complaining. I don't care whether or not they use real blood or not. Just blood is blood, especially in WWE when they rarely use it. It's really effective when they use it because it's rarely used. So when they actually do it, it's really effective because we barely see it, man. That was really great. The amount of blood they both shed was amazing. We had some really, really cool spots in this match as well. We had one spot where CM Punk and Drew McIntyre was fighting on the ring apron, and there's a table right behind Drew McIntyre on the outside, and Drew McIntyre ends up doing a suplex off the ring apron onto the table. That was a very sick spot. Towards the end of the match, if I'm not mistaken, we get Drew McIntyre ends up pulling out a black bag, and he ends up pulling out the beads that is made up of the bracelet that CM Punk was wearing with his wife and his dog. He ends up pulling out the beads and start pouring it all over CM Punk. And if I'm not mistaken, I think he ended up attacking him with it as well. If I'm no, but he ends up pouring it on him, if I'm not remember. Then he tries to go for a Claymore, but CM Punk ends up moving out the way, and he ends up landing on steel steps. That was brutal because he low-key could have broke his back with that move. The way he landed on them steel steps was very brutal. But after he ends up landing on the steel steps, CM Punk ends up picking up the beads, ends up feeding it inside his mouth, similar to what Drew did on Monday Night Raw about a month back, if I'm not mistaken, and ends up hitting a GTS with the beads in his mouth, picking up the victory. This was amazing, man. This is a 10 out of 10. This was everything you needed from a Hell in a Cell. I have little to no complaints. The only complaint I really have is that they could have used more weapons, but that's just a nitpick at that point. This match delivered on every single thing it needed to deliver, and they sold the injuries. Both wrestlers can barely walk. You have CM Punk collapsing all over the floor. He needs a breathing. They delivered on everything. Now, I hope they do not return on Monday Night Raw perfectly healed. No, they shouldn't even be on Monday Night Raw show, if I'm being honest. Don't even have them on the show for the next few weeks to really sell these injuries, bro. To sell that they're really in pain, they're really suffering after their battle. Have them not appear, or if they are going to appear, have them in a cast or something. That way you can sell it a bit more. But they really sold this match. This match was an absolute banger. This was a perfect way to open the show. Now we get the WWE Women's Championship match between Bayley versus Nia Jax. This was actually a pretty solid match. I enjoyed this match. For the most part, Nia Jax was dominating Bayley. They was telling the story of Nia being that overpowering, dominant, bigger, stronger opponent. Of course, with Bayley being the underdog, you got to overcome her and try to outrun her and outmaneuver her instead of using raw strength to beat her, telling that story. There were some interesting spots, though. Nia Jax at one point tried to do a Hurricanrana on not Bayley. Now, I will say there were some sloppiness. Like her Hurricanrana was not smooth, but to be fair, Nia Jax is a very big woman. I don't expect her to pull off a Hurricanrana, but there was some botches here and there. But overall, I really enjoyed the match. But the main point of the match, toward the end of the match, it was a point where Nia Jax kicked out of a pin from Bayley, and she ends up tossing Bayley over the referee. Now the referee is on her knees, and she's in between Nia and Bayley, who are also on the ground. Bayley ends up doing like a kick on the ground, which made Nia Jax fall on top of the ref that was in between them, which knocks out the ref. This allows Bayley to end up making a comeback. She ends up hitting the Rose Plant, but there's no one there. There's no one to, count the pin. Then you hear it's Tiffy time. You hear the Tiffany Stratton music. She comes out, and she's trying to cash in. She takes out Bayley. She's trying to cash in, trying to get the ref up. The ref is starting to get up, but then Nia Jax ends up popping up, rising from the dead like she's the Undertaker and Kane. She, like, seriously, she was knocked out, and then she just rise up, literally, like she was like Undertaker. Rise up, They're having altercation. They're going back and forth. Then Bayley tries to make her comeback, try to fight. Then while Bayley's making her comeback, it looks like Bayley's about to win. She's on the top rope. Tiffany Stratton ends up throwing her briefcase at Bayley. Bayley throws it back, but that causes a distraction to allow Nia Jax to take advantage, which allowed her to eventually hit the Annihilator to retain her WWE Championship. But after the match, Nia Jax and Tiffany Stratton doesn't look like they're on good terms. Nia Jax was just looking at Tiffany Stratton with disappointment and distrust, and she feels betrayed, and Tiffany Stratton looked very upset. So I don't know if they're going to be on good terms by Friday, or they're going to have the makeup episode where Tiffany tries to prove herself to Nia again. I don't know, but I love what they did here. I thought it was a really good match. It was a bit sloppy at times, but overall, I really enjoyed the match. I really enjoyed what they did. I kind of wish Naomi would have got involved to, to speed up that heel turn, but overall, this was a really good match. I really enjoyed it. Their SummerSlam match I do think was better, but overall, I think they told a good story here, and I really enjoyed this match. Now next, we get the first Judgment Day match between Finn Balor and Damian Priest. Gonna be honest here, I was actually disappointed in this match. The feud itself has already been kind of falling off due to Liv and Rhea getting all of the attention, but I kind of thought the match would have delivered. Part of the reason why this match didn't deliver because of time, but also because they just didn't really give off bad blood vibes. Like, they didn't give off that intensity, that heated rivalry that it needed. I hated that when they first, well, actually, CM Punk and Drew did the same thing, so it's kind of the same criticism. When they first started all the match, they was like talking to each other and then they attacked. Kind of wish they would just attack straight on. But yeah, this match was fine. It was a Monday Night Raw match. Let me put it like that. It wasn't bad by any means. It was a decent to good match, but was it pay-per-view worthy? Not really. The feud itself, you could argue, is worth the pay-per-view, but the actual match, not so really. Towards the end of the match, basically, you get Judgment Day ends up interfering. If I'm not mistaken, I think I'm forgetting things. I wrote some notes, but I think I'm actually forgetting what exactly happened. Oh yeah, now I remember. Judgment Day does interfere. That does allow Finn Balor to end up hitting the coup de grace, but Damian Priest ends up kicking out. Then I think another distraction does happen, but it doesn't work this time. And then Finn Balor starts hitting coup de grace after coup de grace. He hits back-to-back coup de grace on Damian Priest, but he hits it on the back. He doesn't hit it on his stomach or chest. He hits it while Damian Priest is like bending over, and he's hitting it like on his back. The third time he tries to go for it, Damian Priest ends up grabbing him in the air, hitting the chokeslam, picking up the victory. I'm going to be honest, I was shocked that Damian Priest won. Well, not really. I thought Finn Balor would have won, but I understand why he lost. But yeah, I don't know what they do with Finn Balor from here. Now, I'm not one of the Finn Balor fanboys who want him to be this main event guy who desperately, like, I'm not one of those. I think he's great, but I'm not itching for him to be a main eventer like most people are. But I am confused why they went with this decision, though, to a degree. Especially, I am a bit confused. But overall, it was a decent match, but it was more of a Monday Night Raw main event. But overall, it was a decent match, but I am a bit disappointed. Now we end up getting a special announcement from Triple H. He comes out, and I ain't gonna lie, I thought that they was gonna announce a women's mid-card title, because you clearly see that it's you clearly see it's a championship. You clearly see it's a championship right next to him. But he ends up announcing that at Crown Jewel, it's going to be a champion versus champion, the world champions, on both brands facing each other. Basically how they used to do for Survivor Series. And that whoever wins will win the Crown Jewel Championship. Now, at first, I thought this was stupid. But then I really thought about it, and I thought, it's Crown Jewel. People have been crying and complaining about War Games for a while now, and they've been complaining that, how about we just go back to the old Survivor Series? Well, you get the old Survivor Series style, just with a championship involved. And I don't hate it, because Crown Jewel has always been more of a filler thing. It's always been non-canon, if you know anime, but it's always been non-canon in most wrestling story. It's very rare where Crown Jewel leads to something that actually makes an impact for the rest of the year. The only time I really could think about it now within the last couple years is really Kairi Sane. That's really the only thing, but even then you could argue she didn't have much of an impact to a degree, but that's the only thing I could really think of. Outside of that, I can't really think of a monumental moment that really happened at Crown Jewel that really affected the rest of the year. So typically, majority of the time, it's just non-canon, it's just filler, so I don't mind it. But the real interesting thing was Gunther. Gunther ends up coming out, cutting a promo, and then he ends up talking about Bill Goldberg. He talks about Bill Goldberg. Bill Goldberg was in the crowd, and he starts talking trash. He ends up mentioning what he said to Bret Hart about him being his favorite wrestler, and he said he lied. He said he lied about that because a wrestler like Bill Goldberg, a one-trick pony, he can never admire, which is true because based off Gunther's character, Bill Goldberg is not a wrestler he would ever admire to be. Then he ends up going after his son next and ends up saying that he hopes that Bill Goldberg is a better father than he is a wrestler, which was Gunther is a menace, bro. Gunther is a menace. He is going on this tirade of just saying things on promo, calling Damian Priest street trash, saying that it's a choice to be on the street. Like he's been going on constant like rants and just going crazy on the microphone. Then you get Goldberg trying to attack Gunther, but security comes out. Then you end up getting Sami Zayn ends up coming out attacking Gunther to build up their feud on Monday Night Raw, and that's the end of the whole segment. But this was overall really good. I really enjoyed it. This is great, and I'm actually somewhat excited for Crown Jewel. It's a PLE that don't mean anything, that we don't really need to stress too much about the storylines, and it'll be interesting to see who wins, especially between Gunther and Cody Rhodes when they do that match, since it's champion versus champion. So it'll be interesting who wins that match though. Now we end up getting Rhea Ripley versus Liv Morgan, and I'm going to be honest, this might be the most disappointing match on the show, because like I said, it's the same thing with Finn Balor and with Finn Balor and Damian Priest, just with a better build, but there's really not much to say here. Basically, Rhea Ripley dominates for 90% of the match, Dominic Mysterio escapes the shark cage, which is something I actually predicted, and then he ends up falling out of the shark cage by accident, and he's hanging. Rhea Ripley decides to, instead of attacking Liv Morgan and pick up the victory, she decides to attack Dominic instead with a kendo stick. Then out of nowhere, someone ends up attacking her, and it is revealed to be Raquel Rodriguez. Now, a lot of people predicted this. I even thought this as well. I just didn't predict it in my predictions video because I just didn't think she was cleared. So I'm like, I'm not going to predict something. And I'm the type of person where I keep my expectations low. That way, when something does happen, I'm actually shocked by it. I was actually shocked when she came out. So she ends up coming out, and they end up calling a disqualification. But Raquel Rodriguez, I think this was a botch because there's no way they told her to do this. She ends up trying to put Liv Morgan over Rhea Ripley to like count as a pin, but they already ring the bell. So I'm assuming that was a botch on her end because I'm like, there's no way they told her to do that after they called disqualification. So it looks like Raquel is teaming up with Liv Morgan, giving her that muscle. And it looks like my prediction is right. They're pushing this to WrestleMania. There's no way you bring Raquel and they're only going to bring her in for like a month or two. Because Survivor Series is like in November, if I'm not mistaken. There's no way you're going to have her beat Raquel with ease in 2 months and then that's it. Because at that point, then the Royal Rumble is the next pay-per-view after that, if I'm not mistaken. So, well, there's Saturday Night Live event and then the Royal Rumble. It's just, yeah, it just doesn't make sense. Yeah, my prediction is coming true more and more. They're pushing this to WrestleMania. They're pushing this to WrestleMania. I don't see no other way, which I don't want it like that, but it's the only, they're pushing it towards WrestleMania. But overall, it was a bit disappointment, but the Raquel kind of made up for it to a degree. Now we get the main event, man. This main event delivered. This main event was great. The in-ring, the storytelling he told, this was great. Early on in the match, they was basically building up towards Roman Reigns getting in the ring, building up that moment. Roman Reigns did get the moment where he did get tagged in. The pop for him was crazy. He ended up fighting Solo for a bit, but Jacob Fatu ends up interfering and ends up giving Solo the upper hand. Early on in the match, for like the first 10, 12 minutes of this match, it was basically where Cody and Roman would dominate, but then Jacob Fatu would basically distract them, which allowed Solo to end up taking advantage, and then same vice versa. So anytime the Bloodline got offense, it was basically do like a distraction so they could end up getting the upper hand. But then towards the match, Solo and the Bloodline are dominating, and they're building and building and building towards that Roman hot tag. They're building and building towards that Roman Reigns hot tag. They want the Roman Reigns hot tag, and then Roman Reigns finally ends up getting the hot tag. He starts going off. But then, of course, Jacob Fatu ends up interfering. Then you get Cody Rhodes, and he starts helping Roman Reigns, and he ends up fighting Jacob Fatu. They're going back and forth. They end up fighting on the outside, if I'm not mistaken. And then Cody ends up dominating Jacob Fatu. He ends up getting the upper hand. And then you get a moment where he ends up putting Jacob Fatu on the table. He ends up going inside the ring, going towards the top rope, and he gives Roman Reigns a nod, giving him the signal of, this is up to you. I'm going to take out Jacob Fatu. It's up to you to win this match. He dives on Jacob Fatu onto the announce table on the top rope and ends up taking out Jacob Fatu for the rest of the match. So now it's just Solo Sikoa and Roman Reigns. It looks like Roman Reigns is about to, pick up the victory. He's about to spear Solo Sikoa. But then the Tongas come out. They distract Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns is up turning around, Solo Sikoa ends up spearing Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns, he goes for the 1, 2, 3. Roman Reigns can go at the 2.99 like he typically does, like he always does. Oh my God. My brain is going all over the place. I don't know how I almost forgot this, but look, but yeah, I'm so busy about what the last part of the show is. I totally forgot this person returned. Oh my goodness. But towards the end of the match, Solo was getting the upper hand. But then out of nowhere, the Tonga's on the outside of the ring, right? You see a black man with a hoodie on and a bandana. Solo turns around and Solo is wondering who that is. The guy in the black hoodie with the bandana ends up super kicking both the Tonga brothers, ends up revealing to be Jimmy Uso of all people. Jimmy Uso ends up making his return, which allowed Roman to end up hitting the spear on Solo Sikoa and ends up picking up the victory. After the match, Jimmy and Roman ends up having a moment. They end up hugging each other. Roman is very emotional. So it looks like Jimmy is united back with Roman. There's no heated tension. He's united back with Roman. Then it's an altercation. They're leaving the ring, and then Cody is getting beat up by the Bloodline. He's getting beat up, and Roman didn't want to help him at first because he was like, look, I said I would have his back, but that was a one-time deal. But then Jimmy ends up convincing him. He ends up convincing him. Roman and Jimmy ends up saving the day, take out the Bloodline. But then the WWE Championship is right next to Roman, and it's on the ground. Roman picks it up, stares at it, but then he ends up giving it to Cody Rhodes and looks him in the eye. Cody Rhodes lifts up the championship right next to Roman, and then all you hear is, do you smell? The Rock theme music hits, bro. The Rock makes his return, and that's how you end the show, basically. This is great. He didn't reveal whether or not he's with Roman. He didn't reveal who's with Cody. Well, if you smell, but he didn't reveal anything. He just stood there and then left. This was great. This sets up the War Games match that's going to happen at Survivor Series. This sets up everything. This is great. This was a great pay-per-view. If the things in the middle between Finn Balor, Damian Priest, and Rhea Ripley was better, this would have been a 10 out of 10 pay-per-view. But overall, this was a great review. I can't wait to see what happens on SmackDown. Now, I know The Rock isn't going to be back full-time. He probably won't be back full-time until like Royal Rumble season. But the fact that The Rock made his appearance means that this Bloodline storyline is going to pick up. They're going to speed up the process a bit, especially to build up towards that Survivor Series War Games match, because we need that match. But this means a lot. They're going to slow build this, of course, but I can't wait to see what happens, bro. I can't wait to see what happens next, bro. But you guys let me know your opinions down below. Let me know, did your predictions come right? But yeah, leave your opinions down below. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. But yeah, that's it.